There is something most people assume about ancient humans without ever saying it out loud. That if you were born different, if your body did not work the way everyone else's did, if your mind processed the world differently, if you came into this world with something that set you apart from the very beginning, you would not have lasted long. It seems logical. Ancient life was brutal. Every person in the group needed to contribute. Every mouth needed to earn its food. A child who could not hunt, could not gather, could not pull their weight in a world where survival was never guaranteed. Surely that child would have been left behind. That assumption is wrong, and the proof of just how wrong it is came from the bones of a 6-year-old child who died more than 150,000 years ago. The child was a Neanderthal, found at a cave site called Cova Negra in eastern Spain. Small bones, a child who never made it to adulthood. But preserved inside those bones was something that changed everything scientists thought they knew about ancient compassion. The inner ear anatomy of this child showed clear signs of Down syndrome, the earliest confirmed case of Down syndrome ever found in the fossil record. Scientists nicknamed the child Tina, and Tina survived to age 6. In a Neanderthal band living in a cave 150,000 years ago with no medicine, no hospitals, no understanding of genetics or chromosomes, a child with Down syndrome survived long enough to grow teeth, to learn to walk, to exist in the world for 6 years. That does not happen by accident. That does not happen without deliberate, sustained daily care from the people around her. Someone fed her. Someone carried her. Someone made sure she was warm when the cold came. Someone protected her from the dangers that ended so many lives in that world. For 6 years. Without any expectation that she would ever be able to give anything back. And Tina was not alone. In 2024, scientists published a study in the journal Nature that changed the conversation permanently. They screened the DNA of over 10,000 ancient humans from burial sites across Europe, covering thousands of years of prehistoric history, and found something remarkable. 6 confirmed cases of Down syndrome, 1 case of Edwards syndrome, a condition even more severe. All of them buried, not abandoned, not left outside, buried. And not just buried the way you bury someone to get them out of the way. Buried with care, buried with grave goods, buried inside houses and important buildings at their settlements at a time when most people were cremated. These children were chosen for something, given something in death that most people around them were not given. Archaeologist Roberto Risch, who worked on the study, said he was puzzled by what he found. He could not explain why these specific children were being buried inside homes. But the evidence was clear. They were treated no differently from others. And in some cases, they were treated better. Think about what that means for a moment. These communities had no word for Down syndrome. They had no concept of chromosomes or genetics. They could not have explained what made these children different in any scientific sense. All they knew was that this child came into the world looking different, moving through the world differently, experiencing the world in a way that everyone around them could see was not the same, and they chose to care for them anyway. But here is where the story gets even more interesting, because it was not just Down syndrome. The archaeological record of ancient humans caring for individuals who could not fully care for themselves goes back much further than most people realize. As far back as 1.6 million years ago, there is evidence in the fossil record of ancient humans surviving serious injuries and illnesses that they could only have survived with help from others. A skeleton from Dmanisi in Georgia dated to around 1.8 million years ago showed a jaw that had lost all its teeth long before death. The bone had completely healed and remodeled, which means this individual lived for years after losing the ability to properly chew food. In a world where you needed to eat to survive and eating required teeth that was a death sentence without help. And yet they survived. Someone was processing food for them. Someone was making sure they could eat. We are talking about some of the earliest humans we have ever found, and they were already taking care of each other. Then there are the children who researchers believe may have been autistic. This is harder to prove from bones alone because autism does not leave a physical mark that archaeology can find directly. But researchers studying Stone Age communities have argued that the specific traits associated with autism, intense focus on particular tasks, pattern recognition, the ability to sit with a single problem for hours or days without distraction, would have been extraordinarily valuable in prehistoric societies. Who made the tools? Who remembered which plants grew where and in what season? Who could track an animal's movements across days of territory without losing the thread? Who could sit alone and work on a technique until it was perfect while everyone else was distracted by the social chaos of group life? The skills that make autism difficult in the modern world, the hyperfocus, the resistance to distraction, the deep pattern recognition, may have made it an advantage in the ancient one. Some researchers have gone as far as to suggest that what we now call autism may have played a role in some of the greatest cognitive leaps in human prehistory. The explosion of tool technology, the development of art, the systematic tracking of animals across seasons, things that required a mind that could go very deep into one problem and stay there. A child who was different was not necessarily a burden to an ancient community. They may have been a gift, and ancient communities seem to have understood this in a way that does not fit the story we tell about them. The story that says prehistoric life was purely about survival of the fittest, that weakness meant death, that anyone who could not contribute was left behind. The bones say something different. The bones say that 150,000 years ago, a Neanderthal community looked at a child who would never hunt, who would never gather, who would never contribute to the group's survival in any traditional sense, and chose to spend 6 years keeping her alive. Not because they had to, not because any law or society required it, but because she was one of them. And that instinct, and the instinct to protect the most vulnerable member of the group for no practical reason at all, may be one of the oldest things about us. Older than language, older than tools, older than almost anything else we think of as human. It was there before we were.